up, YouTube? Bearded Cruiser coming at you. My second attempt at a first video. Some of you guys might have noticed the channel name change for those of you that are already subscribed. I appreciate it. Love you guys. Love the feedback that I've had from you guys on my videos. Up to this point, I've done mostly videos on working on my bikes. Been into motorcycling now for a couple of years, and it's just absolutely taken over. It's pretty dominant. So I want to try getting into motovlogging. I've done obviously some basic mechanical stuff with bikes. I've done a couple of 8 videos. One of them takes off or gets a good enough following. I'll probably separate things out, kind of give them their own space. But I want to give this a shot. So, due to motovlogging, again, I appreciate any feedback that you guys can provide. Looking on for some feedback on a couple things in particular. The chin mount cam, like dislike. Chin mount, obviously you can see the bars. You can see the speedometer, so it gives you kind of the whole perspective about the ride overall itself. Or should I go with like a top of helmet where you can see the whole field of view? You know, you lose a lot of that down below, the actual what's happening with control, speed, and all that jazz, but get a lot better view of the picture around you. So give me some feedback on that. The other thing that's new bike. Some of you guys probably noticed it looks a little different than the other bikes I had in the video. So, moved down. I'm from Iowa. We moved down to North Carolina about, it's been 9 months or so. I transferred down here for work I already had. So, as part of that, we don't have a lot of family down here, so we ended up, I bought a touring bike for the purpose of my wife and I being able to ride together. Obviously, we're not getting to do a lot of that with no family here, so we just happened to stop by the dealership the other day. We both just had a day off. We stopped and looked at, we went down to the warehouse for some reason. They had a couple leftover 16s down there. One of them was this one. It's a 2016 Street Bob in olive gold. Two things. I've always loved Dynas and Softails, and if I didn't, I bought touring for the purpose of us riding together. Had I not, it always would have been a Dyna or a Softail. One of the things I've always loved about the Street Bob is the customization aspect. Now, Harleys in general, there's about 100 different parts for every piece of the machine, both Harley and aftermarket, whatever you're into. But the Street Bob in particular, you can make this thing look a million different ways. I've seen people put a fairing on it and turn it into a damn half touring bike, down to, a basic stripped down hardtail bobber with a Springer seat. So it's just super versatile. The other piece is olive gold. Ever since Harley brought out this color, I've absolutely been enamored with it. I love it. It's one of the best finishes I've ever seen. Actually, I like the olive gold and matte even better because it's almost like a army green look. Looks pretty raw. So, new bike. My thoughts on it so far, I love it. I will probably do a more in-depth review on it when I get to 1,000 miles and probably a 5,000 mile. Some of the things I'm going to have coming up on the channel are, I'm going to do kind of I guess you'd call it a post-ownership 5,000 mile review, because that's about what I had, about 4,900 when I traded in the 2016 Road Glide Special. Great bike. I definitely did not get rid of it because I didn't like it. I've just always liked Dynas and Softails better, and if we can't ride together, that's my first choice. I would probably end up back on a Road Glide if we were riding together, or Road Glide Ultra would probably be preferable. But I'm going to do a 5,000 mile review on that, give you the pros and cons. I really like the Road Glide, and I'll talk about, because I've had some experience with and test rode the Street Glide too, so I'll probably talk about some of the differences between the two, and factors that, in my opinion, separate the two bikes. I think they're both great bikes. Then one of the things that's a drawback to me in the Street Glide, and it has nothing to do with the bike itself, it's that everybody fucking owns one. It's the most popular bike in the world, I believe, in terms of sales, and definitely in the United States. And so that's kind of a drawback to me. There's no appeal to having what everybody else has. And it gets even worse if you buy their basic color, which is the vivid black. Yeah, if you buy that color, literally everybody owns one. But other than that, there were positives that I liked about that bike over the Road Glide. But ultimately, the Road Glide was the better choice for me. Some other videos I probably have are, I want to go over the ads that I've done to this bike so far. I bought it and got a stupid good deal on the bike itself, in part because it was a leftover 16. But then beyond that, I added about $3,000 worth of parts to it. And because I added quite a few parts, and obviously they're trying to get rid of the 16, they gave me a ridiculously good deal to install it. As you guys have seen from my previous videos, I'm capable of putting on my own exhaust, stuff like that. The only thing I wanted them to install, which is how we got into the install topic in the first place, was the forward foot controls. I didn't want to spend the hours in the garage. It's already getting to be 90-degree weather down here in North Carolina. I didn't want to spend the hours upon hours in the garage putting on forward foot controls, because to do that you got to remove the primary cover, so it's a lot more involved work. You know, if you got a proper lift and all that jazz, it's about a 3-4 hour job for a Harley tech. For me, it probably would have been, I'm guessing, 5 or 6. So we got into the topic of, like I said, I added about $3,000 worth of parts, and so they were going to charge me, I think it was $350 worth of labor basically to install that $3,000 worth of parts. So originally I was going to put about $2,000 worth of parts on. I came back the next day when we were getting ready to settle kind of the final details of the deal, and said, look, I want to add another $1,000 of parts, but I want a little deeper discount. So what they did was, when you buy the bike, standard discount is 10% off all parts. No discount on labor, parts, clothes, all that stuff is 10% off. So what they did for me was 15% off my entire list of parts. So I upped it to $3,000, saved me, I don't know what it was, about between $500 and $600. They charged me about $500 to install the entire list of parts, which, if you know Harley dealership labor is ridiculous cost per hour. I think they charge $90 or $95 an hour, and that's one of the cheaper ones, at least in my area down here. So it was a stupid good deal, because it was essentially like about 15 hours worth of labor for what I put on it. So I'll go over what I put on it in more detail in another video, but the gist of it was all black, forward controls. So I went with, we're not just moving these controls enough. And then I put on the Harley mini floorboard in all black. It gives it a sweet look, and it is super comfortable forward controls. I put on the Harley 12-inch chisel handlebar. It comes stock with these, it's basically equivalent 12-inch mini gate. I put custom dynamics LEDs front and rear. If you guys haven't seen these things, they're used in there, badass, and provide way more visibility for oncoming traffic to you. These are bullet style, so only the outer ring is lit up when you're just riding, but it's so bright, especially at night, it looks like 2 additional headlights. When you put on the turn signals, it shifts, just that one side shifts from white to amber. In the back you got solid red, and obviously a higher intensity when you actually hit the brakes, but they're super bright. Went with the Harley Daymaker LED headlamp in the front, which so far I've done a couple of night rides, and the headlight's been awesome. I was a little nervous about it because the Road Glide comes stock with dual Daymaker LEDs like on it, and those are literally, they make the night day. These aren't quite as good as that, but they are very impressive. For being a single headlight with high beam on, I had great visibility on night ride. When I say night ride, I'm not talking about through city streets with street lights. I'm talking in the country on my way to work, you know, completely enclosed in trees, so you barely get any moonlight on the road. But yeah, it was great visibility. I was pleasantly surprised. We talked about the custom dynamic LEDs, just lights, daymaker, forward control. Oh, Vance and Hines short shot staggered exhaust. That's probably the most common exhaust for a street bob, and there's a reason for that. It's because it sounds fucking amazing. For an air intake, I went with the Big Sucker, and I swapped out the standard cover on that for a Dark Customs, the number 1 logo from Harley. And then I went with the Vance & Hines Fuel Pack 3 for the tuner. Now, there's obviously a huge debate on tuners, you know, whether you should dyno it at a dealership or whether you should put a tuner on. Here's just my take on the subject. When you dyno it, I do believe that you will get optimal performance. I think you'll get better results dyno than you will from any tuner. I don't care if it's meant for that specific brand, which in my case it was for my bikes. You're just going to get better results on a dyno because you have somebody there manually tuning and adjusting and reprogramming your ECM for individual characteristics, right? Every pipe should be slightly different. But for the money, hands down, the tuner's a better deal. And the argument a lot of people make is, well, the tuner costs the same as a dyno. You're right, it does. Here's the problem. It is very common. I can't speak for sport bikes because I've never owned a sport bike. I have owned metric bikes, but not a sport bike. For a Harley, it's not all that uncommon for that tune to need adjusted after a year or 2 years, or a lot less depending on the amount of miles you've done as the bike breaks in. So when I buy a $350 Fuel Pack 3 from Vance & Hines to run with my Vance & Hines branded pipe, I know what I'm getting into. And I also know that if I have to retune, I'm not dropping another $400 for the Harley dealership to retune it in a couple of months. So I'm going to pay $350 one time, and if anybody has questions on the fuel pack itself, yes, it is married to the bike. So when you buy a fuel pack, it's good for your bike. For the life of it, you cannot transfer it to a new bike. It's married to the VIN number. But I can retune it as often as I need to. If I happen to not like the Big Sucker intake, I change it. Or if I change pipes, all that's built into it. There's 2 ways you can tune with the Vance & Hines fuel pack. You can do auto tune, which essentially is going to, you ride the bike, it's going to learn, and then it's going to reprogram your ECM once it gathers some data. Which ultimately is probably the best way to tune no matter what you do, because it's essentially trying to do a version of what you do with a dyno. The other option is, and this you can do in about a minute and a half, you choose the brand of pipes you're running, you choose the intake you're running, and bam, it remaps your ECM in about 30 seconds. That's what I did. So they installed the fuel pack for me, which is nothing. It's essentially picking up the seat, putting the thing on, putting the seat back on. But they won't touch the tuning on it because obviously if they put something on and blow your shit up, it's their responsibility. They got to repair it. So I had already installed the app when I went to go pick up the bike. I basically turned on my Bluetooth and found the VIN. I remapped it. Literally the whole process from starting the app to remapping my ECM was about literally a minute and a half, and I'm not even exaggerating. And it immediately ran great. They kind of rode it up the block and into the showroom, and you could catch a little bit of back sputtering from it. And this thing runs flawlessly once I put that new map on there. So yeah, it was. So that's the reason I chose what I did, and that's kind of the total parts that I have. And Vance & Hines products so far, from what I've had experience with, have been great. The fit and finish is amazing on their pipes, and there's a lot of good makers out there. But really the price isn't bad on Vance & Hines pipes, especially for how good the quality is. that's the details kind of on the bike. That's what I've done so far. There's some other things I want to do, but they're kind of more down the road. I am going to black out some more parts for sure. Definitely the front and rear, back into the bullet signals. And I'm looking at a couple different ways of doing it. Obviously the best quality for what I want done is going to be to powder coat. But I'm going to try something, one, to see if I can save some money on it, but two, because I've had good luck with the product in the past, and that's plastic dip. The one thing I'm going to try different is on my Kawasaki. If you look at some of my other videos, I got 2 of them on there about plastic dipping parts. And that turned out absolutely amazing. And what I was most impressed with is I am by no means a Picasso with a rattle can. In fact, I've sucked more than I've been good at it. Plastic dip goes down great looking with very little effort. It does not take skill by any means. So I put plastic dip down on the cow parts, and that had a denim finish to it, the bike itself, and it matched up great. The texture is different, so you can obviously tell that it basically makes it look like, even if you have an aluminum part or a steel part that you're coating, the texture of the plastic dip itself will make it look like it's a plastic part, or it'll have kind of a rough finish, almost like a truck bed liner, but not quite as porous. So that's what I'm going to try with this one. One thing I'm going to try different this time, and if you look, there's tons of videos on plastic dip out there, but there you go. There's my first motovlog, and the first time an idiot almost fucking smoked me. So one thing I'm going to try that's different than what people are used to, or I'm sorry, different than what I've done in the past, is I'm going to try putting their glossifier down. And I've seen some videos on it. It does put a pretty good gloss coat to it. So I'm going to give that a shot and see what the results are. So some other videos that I'll probably get into on the vape side. If you're not interested in this, obviously scroll by them. And like I said, if one of them takes on a following, I'll probably do more of it. But I want to do, there's a juice company, 2 juice companies I've been buying most of my juice from, and I want to review some of those and the flavors that I've tried. But the bigger one is the mod that I use. I want to do a review on that because I've owned it for about 6 months now. It's extremely popular, so I want to give people a perspective, good, bad, and different about it, and the tank that comes with it, and the upgraded tank that I put on it. That'll cover that side of it. On the motorcycle side, I think we covered. I'm going to do a 5,000 mile review on the roadside. I'm going to give you guys a better look at this bike around, and more kind of in-depth look at the part itself. And obviously, I'm going to try to get some more just general vlogs out there. So if you want to comment, please do. If you like the video or you want to see more, please like the video and subscribe. And I am open to feedback. The only thing I ask is don't be a twat about it. Ain't nobody got time for somebody being a dick about it. But if candid, honest feedback, I'm completely down. Like I said, I'm completely new at this. I know that, especially when I'm thinking through something, obviously I'm not scripted while on a motorcycle, so I say a lot, and you got awkward moments of silence. So as I get better with editing, right now I'm just using the standard GoPro software to edit. For those of you guys that are doing this on a regular basis, give me some feedback on editing software. There's stuff that's good, both what's good that costs a lot or a little money, and both what's the best you've used as free software. And obviously, until I fine-tune some skills, I'm not going to go drop a few builds on decent editing software. If I don't know that I'm going to do this long term, if nobody watches this shit.